Sunday, anxiety builds as clock ticks, preparing the next battle. These are the headlines at the Inquirer. And one wonders what the purpose is exactly. Why the rhetoric? Well, Benjamin Manis has a thought or two about it. He's been writing about it at both Broad and Liberty and Newsmax. Mr. Manis, it's always a pleasure to bring you in. Thank you for your time this Monday morning. Hi.
Crunch time, Chris. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. You picked up on it early, and it's disturbing, really. They need to stop this cheering, this fanning of flames, right? It's so clear that's what they're doing.
Well, we're in the middle of a very contentious election, and Pennsylvania is likely to be the deciding factor of the nation. And the fact is, we're not playing with a straight deck of cards. The largest newspaper in the Commonwealth is definitely putting its thumb on the scale. There is no disputing it in looking at how they cover things. And whether it's the Wallace shooting or the election coverage itself, they are creating a definite air of tension and possible danger around tomorrow's, get out the vote. Almost as if they're trying to subliminally discourage people from going out and casting their ballot because of all the discord in society right now.
That's an interesting take, and I think you're probably quite right. The dispiriting people is critically important to people who are actively cheering for Biden. Fast Eddie here just said that a Democrat in his neighborhood said, tomorrow is going to be long waits, long lines. It seems like they've done everything they can to get people to vote by mail and almost turn it on its head and suggest people ought not even leave their homes to participate tomorrow in person.
And they've lived it in the courts. I mean, that's the really sad part. I mean, if you've spent literally a year, or let's just take it to Corona, literally since March, getting out the vote in this mail-in ballot scheme, and you still need an extra 3 days after 6 months of constantly ramming the go get your vote in by mail, campaign in people's heads. I'm sorry, that doesn't compute. The fact of the matter is everyone in the Commonwealth has been quite comfortable going to the supermarket. They've been quite comfortable, going out and, some are going to work, some are taking care of errands. A lot of people are going to Franklin Mills. So if you could do that with a mask, why can't you spend literally 2 minutes inside a voting booth?
Yeah,
because the rest of it is online outside 6 feet apart from each other.
Even the great Dr. Fauci says he's voting in person tomorrow, for what that's worth. It is striking that Pennsylvania, for as frustrated and irritated as we are at our Supreme Court for allowing votes to be counted until Friday, and by the way, that also seems to be what local media is very fixated on. They basically are telling you already, don't even plan on having a winner tomorrow night. I'm not so sure I agree with that, but that's what they're basically telling you. Don't even think we're going to know who won Pennsylvania tomorrow night, no matter what.
From the standpoint of an expert witness, the worst possible thing isn't the delay, although that is quite annoying because it's going to create this, you've heard the term red mirage. Everyone's trying to sow this, don't worry about what you see tomorrow with all the people going out to vote and vote for Donald Trump because you may see something different when the mail-in votes are counted. Well, that, obviously sounds illegitimate, but the thing that really, really disheartens me is that the courts ruled that signatures shouldn't be matched. I'm sorry, but if you go into your polling place, the only duty the person who checks you in is doing is matching your signature to the one in the registration lot. So I'm trying to figure out why, if that's the procedure in person, why that procedure shouldn't carry over to a mail-in ballot. And it just legally puzzles me. I've seen no justification whatsoever in why we can't verify the validity of these votes, which is why in my pieces at both Broad and Liberty and Newsmax, I get into depth about how the Inquirer is writing stories that fail to provide any context that would explain legally the requirements for, both elections and the Walter Wallace shooting, right? The thing that really annoys me is the fact that, they're literally promoting groups that are going out and saying, we're going to protest, we're not going to accept the election results. And the groups in question are talking about things like yeah, every citizen should vote. Well, that's great, except the group in question is an advocate group for illegal immigrants. They're not allowed to vote.
Right.
In no place in America are they allowed to vote. So what are you talking about? You're not going to accept the election results because illegal immigrants aren't allowed to vote. Which tells me right there that they've probably invested months of time trying to get out a vote that is illegitimate. And that's something that should be checked. Ben
Manis is with us. He is both a writer at Newsmax as well as Broad and Liberty. You know, I'm looking at these polls right now. MSNBC's touting all of them. The Morning Consult poll has Biden leading by anywhere from double digits to, down to 4. So it's 4 to 10 point lead for Biden. They're all of them. Morning Consult, Washington Post, Ipsos, Reuters, Morning Call, New York Times, Emerson. Biden's winning Pennsylvania by a few or a lot among likely voters. So if that's true, why are we boarding up stores? Why the National Guard until the 9th? Why the hysterical headlines? I mean, if Biden's running away with this thing, what are we boarding up the city and bracing for exactly? I don't get it.
Because, the Inquirer, with pieces that have been approved by executive editor Pat Kirkstra for authors like Hannah Urso and Helen Urbanus, are literally promoting the concept of protest, mass protest, following the election.
No matter who wins?
Well, I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
They're pulling for somebody, but they're not. That's the slick nature of what they're doing. They're not coming out and saying that.
So are you telling me that you think this is their way of saying you'd better vote for Biden or there will be terrible unrest? You think that's what they're doing?
No, I think what they're trying to do in the Southeast. So the grand scale of things. If you just look at ad dollars, and I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm an evidence guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as an evidence guy, we should be looking at why. So even in Pittsburgh, which is the only blue county in western PA, right? Pittsburgh, the paper of record endorsed Trump. And they're very well aware by the turnouts at all the Trump rallies that central and western PA is coming out hard for Donald Trump. So why invest all these resources in southeast PA, particularly the city of Philadelphia? One, because if you're going to steal this thing for a legitimate vote, it's going to be here. And I'm sorry, because what's going to happen is the Inquirer is going to come out literally probably today and say, this is all false. There's no evidence of voter fraud. I had a talk with a cop in the Rizzo administration, who's a neighbor of mine who's retired now years ago, and he remembers pink slips being pulled off of people, and they'd hand out the pink slips to give people money for how many times they voted. And this is in the 70s and 80s. This is not ancient history. So you're telling me there's no record of voter fraud in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm telling you Ozzie Myers literally got indicted for it 6 months ago, 3 months ago, right?
Right.
So this is happening here, and it's not going to happen in western PA because guess what? They have checks and balances.
Yeah.
We are the only county in Pennsylvania that doesn't have constables at polling places to monitor the elections. That should scare people.
Yeah, and I guess I just don't. It feels like, I guess what the dots I'm trying to connect are they are projecting and telling people there will be violence and unrest, but we all understand it's violence and unrest only if Trump wins. So are they trying to communicate or suggest almost in a threatening way? Is this to dispirit or depress Trump? To what end? Because they know good and well if Biden is really running away with Pennsylvania, they're not going to be. Stores aren't going to be looted and torn apart and destroyed. They know that. So is this sort of a you'd better vote the right way or else kind of a messaging?
No, it's a hey, because knowing that elderly people may be more, susceptible to voting with common sense and tradition than, a woke progressive who wants to defund the police. So, they want to basically sow fear in the heart of an elderly person, whether it's fear of coronavirus or fear of
to keep them home.
Unrest.
To keep them home, you mean?
To keep them home, to keep them out of those polling places. And how you know that is because, if you look at the coverage around the Wallace shooting, I'm sorry, there is nobody who's ever worn a badge and gun, even if it was an internal affairs badge and gun, who looked at that shooting and said this is a bad shoot. His own lawyer His family's own lawyer wouldn't come out and say that there's any criminality in what those officers did. But here we are rioting. Here we are with National Guard in our streets. And if you look at the other ones, look at Jacob Blake. That's Wisconsin, another battleground state. You look at the one in Georgia. That's another battleground state. For some reason, these shootings get covered as if it's this massive, injustice. No one's saying that, something like George Floyd is acceptable. What we're saying is, that once in a while you're going to get a bad guy who does a bad thing. And we don't need to be rioting. And the fact that these riots have been, there was nothing going on over the weekend, but we still had curfews. There was nothing going on over the weekend, but we still have the guard on Aramingo Avenue. Why?
It's a wonderful question. It's when I heard they were staying till the 9th, a friend of mine whose son is serving and been dispatched here, when I heard the 9th, I thought that's very intriguing. Benjamin Manis, again, Newsmax, Broad and Liberty. Where else can people find you? You're on Twitter, I know.
Yeah, come to my Twitter. Tell me, that you don't like me. I don't care. Just be civil about it. People love to attack me personally for what I write. Attack what I write.
Sure.
It's at Public Safety SME, stands for Subject Matter Expert, on Twitter. And that's the easiest way. And then, you could go to Newsmax. The column's called Public Safety Perspectives. Or Broad and Liberty. I'm right on the masthead today. But, yeah, please educate yourself. The Inquirer is not the only game in town. And that is something we need to remind them, because the only way we could really get integrity back in media in Southeast Pennsylvania is to break the monopoly.
Yes. Ben, thanks so much. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That's Benjamin Manis, Mannes, by the way. Public Safety SME on Twitter. Public Safety